I'm an Apple guy myself, so that Samsung sucks. Stuff different for me, but anyway. So I appreciate this opportunity, guys. There's some really great hockey players with great resumes, far greater than I, and there's been some really great presentations that I'm following here. So I'm just going to try my best to keep up here. Yeah, just hope I've done this right. I was obviously pretty open-ended assignment here, but I wanted to zero in on one-timers in particular, and to that point, utilizing the one-timer across the Royal Road. And I'll get into more of those specifics as we get on here. I'll start the presentation here with a clip. And anytime I can work some LA Kings content in here, I probably will. My favorite team from years ago, because Gretzky mostly, but some success lately. And beyond that, this is only actually from the other night. So it's recent, and it just illustrates my point a little bit, and I'll do more of that as I go on here. But here's a clip. I apologize if any video skips or anything. Obviously, Zoom doing what it does sometimes, but hopefully we get the point here anyway. So I'll just go ahead and play this. All right, so it's kind of like just an intro primer on what we're going to talk about and kind of zero in on, like I said. I'm going to point to a couple of studies that kind of back this up a little bit, and just starting here, like which play creates the most goals, or at least by some of the numbers show. And so I want to say unequivocally, but a lot of sources point to a play across the Royal Road, and I'll examine what that is, generates exactly that. So my source material here, first of all, coming from a gentleman named Stephen Valiquette, from the former New York Rangers goaltender, and is into some analytics now, MSG Network as well. I believe from everything I looked at, kind of came up with this term. I'm happy to be corrected if that isn't correct, but from his original kind of gatherings, he did a study of 100 games in 2014-15 and came up with the concept of the Royal Road. And what that is an imaginary line that runs right down the middle of the ice. And depending on who you look up, it's sometimes cut off at the top of the circles as well. So that's important to establish. But what he observed there is that when a puck crosses that middle line in particular before a shot, the scoring opportunity increased the shooter's chance of actually scoring by 10 times, which is pretty significant, obviously. What happens there is a goalie trying to track the puck across that line are forced to reveal holes in their body where they're protecting as they obviously lunge across the crease. So in their natural relocation, they create more openings. So it kind of broke this down a little bit further. A green play, according to Valiquette, anytime a goalie has less than half a second to react, and a red play gives a goalie more. So obviously a one-time shot, not stopping the puck and shooting it right away, is going to elicit that, as well as a quick pass across with a bunch of holes in the net, or theoretically anyway. And so green plays, by this accounted for 76% of all goals tracked, so a lot. And of those goals, the highest frequency of the ones he tracked were passes across the Royal Road for 22% of his goals tracked. And the other 80% were different variations of that. That was the highest one. So that's from 14-15. And to go further, kind of compound on this, where are most goals scored from? So a couple more here. First one, I think this was actually referenced, or maybe the other one coming up, but OMHA did one in 2016, and that's the chart. And I bet most people have seen this already, but they did a 15-16 study on goals, showing that where they mostly come from is 10 to 20 feet in front of the net, in fact. And so now we've got 3 seasons worth of data, kind of starting to say the same thing here. And then this might be the one we actually saw before. I can't remember who presented it, but it was in there, I believe. And really, now we've got a 3rd season. So Game Day did this one in 18-19 season. They did it in 2020, but they tracked just shy of 8,000 goals there in that season. And again, found the same thing, that most goals are scored 10 to 20 feet in front of the net. So we're starting to paint a picture here for what's a good thing to practice, is really what I'm going to get at here and eventually. And so I really like this one too. This goes a little bit further. What type of shots score the most goals and where do they go in? This was some work done by World Hockey Lab. And encourage you to look these guys up. These are some of their charts, not all of them, but just want to get some color and pictures on the slide here. But they did a study in 1718, just shy of 4,000 goals. And some of their main data. Now, some of this isn't going to line up because I said some of it, there's more on their site, but just this is more of an illustration. But just over 50% of the goals that they studied were, again, from the net front area. So we confirmed that same data that we already knew. But for these guys, one-touch shots accounted for 21% of the goals in front of the net, so from that exact area, and then 31% of goals in general. So again, we're just kind of starting to harp on the same ideas here. Over 25% by a Royal Road play of some sort. You can see some of the charts on the side there, hopefully. And then 19 were left to right plays that went in, which is the highest that they studied. And 18% right to left scored third highest there as well. Direct pass to shooter is the second most common type of pre-shot action. So obviously coming right before the goal scored. And so then break down a little bit further by dexterity as far as lefty and righty shooters, where these guys should be aiming, or at least according to these guys' numbers. Left-hander shooters most commonly score top right, and then 5-hole second place. Right-handed shooters conversely, well, also top right most, but then second was left side middle. I was going to call it low blocker, but I mean, sometimes there's a right-handed goalie, so it's not always the low blocker, but so that was the second one. So that's interesting too, when you're practicing your accuracy and aim, things like that, for whether you got a lefty or righty shooter. So of left to right plays, the lefty scored most commonly on the 5-hole, and then righties equally as well. 5-hole or left side middle or low blocker, if you will. Of those 370 right to left plays, so those for lefties, most common there was right side bottom corner, and then righties were right side middle. So you can see some disparity, some similarities, but some disparity between righties and lefties where they should be practicing as well. I thought that was interesting. But then at net front, right there, lefties and righties most commonly scoring 5-hole with goalie out of position. So that kind of speaks to, again, the goalie sprawling across the crease. And lefties, as you can see there, 18% roughly, and then righties 16% of those plays. So that's the boring data stuff, but I think it's interesting to share. So really, just to paint a picture, this is actually basically the same play that was in the video, but different guys. If you're a lefty, this is your best chance of scoring. A quick pass across Royal Road and a goalie out of position at that point, and just a tap in to go bottom right on the net. That's, if you're a lefty, that's the play I would suggest practicing the most, or at least the numbers say that's what you should do. So there's a pre-shot there. Goalie has that less than half a second to react. It's a green play, as Valaket would tell you. It's within the 10 to 20% feet of the goal, I should say. You can see I tried to overlay the chart that we showed earlier onto the ice there just to illustrate where that is, and then target it again at the bottom right corner. So again, I hope this works video wise here, but this is Steven Stamkos. We got a little video of him explaining one time or so. Hopefully this works, or at least you get the point of it. So there's one of the best in the world saying how he does it. And interesting, again, he says, the goalie doesn't have enough time to react, which kind of plays to the data we've been presenting. And obviously he's just really good at it too, but that sure doesn't hurt the fact that he gets it off quickly and knows where to put it. Hopefully that played. Hopefully got the point that I already saw it. I apologize if the video didn't come through as clear as it should have. So to go further here, if you look at a couple of the other really elite shooters in the NHL, at least with Laine, Stamkos again, Ovechkin, and Crosby, where I just wanted to highlight is where they contact the puck. It's interesting, I think, because whereas it's so similar between a one-timer and just a standard slap shot. In a slap shot, you're generally shooting off the front foot or leaning into it, or at least some guys do, and I know I do. All these guys are contacting the puck way back in their stance. In some cases, behind, in Laine's case, behind his back foot, which I think is absurd. But hey, who am I to contradict him? Stamkos is more in line with his back foot. Ovechkin slightly, like about a third, it looks like, from his back of the stance. And Crosby kind of in the same area there. So commonly within the back third of your stance, it seems is the wheelhouse, the sweet spot for these one-timers. Now adjustments got to be made depending on how good or bad your pass is. You might not have to move an inch, you might have to move a whole foot, and you can see guys making those adjustments to get to where they need to be. And again, just variables based on your blade curve, your blade location, but also then how you're going to maneuver it depending where you want the puck to go. Do you want it to go a little higher, a little lower, where you would shoot on your heel or your toe, or to open the blade, things of that nature. So a couple more considerations for optimal shots here. I thought this is interesting, again, just with mentioning Stamkos before. This is somehow the NHL Network got a hold of one of his sticks and just showed it on here. I think this is Jamie McClellan, I could be wrong, but just highlighting that's Stamkos' actual stick, and thankfully he's got white tape. You can see where most of the puck marks are, and that's where he's contacting the puck, so basically right in the middle. You can see some kind of close back in the heel as well, but I thought that was interesting and worth sharing. But again, if you're working with a player trying to work on his one-timers, obviously knees bent, you got to have a strong stance, or things are not going to go well. A strong grip on the stick, obviously bottom hand roughly halfway down the shaft, but you know there's some subjectivity there to where people like to shoot the puck, but wherever it's going to generate maximum stick flexion on that shot. Your stick itself is going to come into the flex rating. You've got under to your puck strike force ratio. You obviously don't want to have a too whippy stick that's going to break in one of these shots, but also nothing too stiff. So whatever is right for you. Again, kind of talking about what's right for each player, everyone being different. Talked about this a little bit already, but location of the puck on the blade. Again, that's where Stamkos does it, but your player may do something different. And again, what kind of curve you have? Do you have a crazy Ovechkin toe curve? Do you have I always like the Zetterberg myself a little straighter, but that's going to come. So it's something to analyze too, again, when you're working with a player, what they're working with. Striking the puck a couple, 1 to 2 inches, I said, but behind the puck, I believe is important as well. Open blade, but not too much. If you want to get it up a little higher, you'll see some guys even get down on a knee. We'll talk about that in a second. But then close it down if you want to go to those bottom corners, which we kind of illustrated earlier. So how you manipulate the blade, important here as well. Mentioned that already. And then hips rotating right to the target as you shoot, so you're not staying in line with your passer. By then you should be following all the way through, gives maximum torque on your shot. And then even just like a little thing, like giving your passer a target, so to increase the chance that you're going to get a good pass. Show them the little stick tap, whatever it happens to be, and talk about it before if you have a kind of a set play, where if you want your back foot or your front or middle, hopefully you can communicate that. But again, you may have to move your own body if the lane isn't exactly clear or the pass isn't perfect. I think there's a lot of shots that get missed because it wasn't perfect, so they stop it, and all of a sudden the goal is over and set. So you got to take advantage of those shades of seconds while you can. And then that's something I always kind of preach, just following through with your stick, pointing exactly where you want to go. Generally, the puck ends up going where you end up pointing your toe. Probably not exact science, but it seems to have worked for me in the past. So, a couple examples here of different types of one-timers, and I think it's important to show here. Different for lefties and righties, of course. Hopefully these animated GIFs are coming through better here, and there's a lot. Hopefully you're not sensitive to a lot of things moving on the screen at once here, but that kind of for a lefty, so on wing I called it, rather conversely to off wing, but on wing there. In this case, your toes are pointed to the net, and this is different than the other guys here, but quick, it's not necessarily, you can wind up and try to take this, but it's real hard. These guys could probably do it, but most people can't. But toes to the net and just a quick push more than anything. And again, hopefully know exactly where you're shooting. Matthews there's got a good illustration of the knee drop there. He's getting a little lower, trying to open up the blade, get it a little higher. And then I believe it's Kucherov. a little more standard. And then that's what you see, that little shuffle there. I would speculate he didn't get exactly the pass he wanted, but he had to move over to get it back into the back of his stance and then walking to that shot there. And same sort of things for the righties there. Again, toes to the net on the on wing and just that little kind of push. The one from the Blackhawks here, this is quite impressive. You know, he's almost at the goal line there. He's down on that one knee, and that does go in, though you can't see there. It's quite an incredible shot. And then just Stamkos looks like he gets the perfect pass and he just drills it. And I'm fairly certain that goes in too. So lots of ways to do it. And so lots of angles to get on in terms of passing and practicing and how to do this here. Speaking of practicing, this is again recent. This is Connor McDavid. Look, like it's not like this guy needed new ways to score goals, but this is arguably the best player in the world now and probably for years to come, practicing as a one-timer. And so these guys are doing it. And just want to start speaking about drills that you can use to practice it. This is as basic as it gets. You're just passing the puck across that road there and you're hammering it on all the things we talked about. Obviously, a couple step ups here, progressions would be putting a goalie in the net and seeing if you can actually get it by him or her. And then further, even just adding a defenseman, so making this more of a real game-like play. But I just thought it was neat to show that even Connor himself is practicing this and trying to get better at it. So if he can, I think your players can as well. Hopefully these videos are going to work. These are some drills I've done with my players. This is at Victoria Racket Club here with our U15 Tier 1 team last year, and hopefully take them for what they're worth. There's things that we practice, and maybe they can inspire you some of your drill planning as well. So this is pretty basic here. It's a continuous drill. It's a pass up to the point, a pass across. In this case, we're one-timing off of a pad pass and trying to get that in there, and that continues on. The next guy goes. We had the goalies drop their sticks for this one, only because it was hard to get that perfect pass. And so just trying to get it in one shot, not stop it, and try to get it at the net was more than anything. And it's good to keep it continuous, I thought. Now we're getting into our just standard shots here. Same sort of thing, though. Pass up the point, continue on. Just a roll pass here and get that on net. And he keeps going here. You can obviously use it at different ends, but just trying to get those shots off in the right spot. This is a good example here, I believe, of a knee drop, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so Elliott there gets his knee down, same sort of thing. John Opazzo in there. So in this one here, now we're adding a little bit of a more game-like kind of structure. We've got a little bit of timing going on, and we're going to get a pass right across, trying to simulate some more game-like play. Obviously it's not always going to be as easy as skating down toward the crease. So I cut a couple obstacles in the way here. We got to time this, get around some of the obstacles. The puck carrier as well has got to get a couple of things out of the way, and then a nice little slick pass across, and hopefully that doesn't miss the net always. Same idea here, but I'm going to offer a little bit of resistance myself. So now I've got some resistance here on the eventual shooter, trying to make it harder for him. And then this one, I believe I pressure the original puck carrier as well to be a little bit more attentive with the puck here as he attempts to get it across. This one here, so a whole bunch of one-timers here. This is a little quick pass across. And now he's going to get a one-timer from down low. Another one from down low. Then he's going to get another one from high. So there's our third one-timer of the drill. And now he's going to take this point guy down and take a little play there. So going to hope the videos came through in a way you could see some of that anyway. Hopefully audio too. And this one just called results. This is a player from, again, the same Victoria Rock Club team. And this happened to be some clips I took from kind of a highlight video I did for him. But it just so happened he scored a whole bunch of goals just the way we practice it, which is convenient for me. Yeah, just working the puck down and getting wherever it is, high or low, a pass across that Royal Road. One-time pass, pretty slick. You got to have a good passer, but you got to be in the right spot, of course. And just getting that in, and you can see, for us anyway, it scored a number of goals for us. So that's ultimately, whether you got NHL examples or whatever, this is my team and my guys doing as I drew it up, or a couple times anyway. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to work every time, but it certainly can, and it scores a lot of goals, or so the numbers say, and so some of the proof in the pudding is right here. So that is pretty much it for me. That's a bibliography. If anyone wants to check out any of those links where I got my data from, it's there. Feel free to check those out and go further with it. I guess I can, if everyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask those now. I'd be happy to ask them as best I can.
Thanks, Dave. That was great. I think it's an important way to score goals nowadays. One of the things I've always sort of found interesting is historically, especially on the men's game at the NHL level, the majority of the pure goal scorers, if you will, are the right-handed shots on their off wing on the left-hand side. So if you go back to Mike Bossy, Ari Curry, Brett Hull, now you have Ovechkin, Laine, Stamkos. A lot of the sort of the research shows that it's a right-handed shot getting a pass from a left-handed player or a left-handed defenseman. And some guys will say it's because the spin of the puck from a left-handed pass versus a right-handed pass is different. But we see a lot more on the right-handed side who are sort of the one-timer guys traditionally. I mean, now on the left-handed side, you see McDavid working on it, Patterson in Vancouver, Draisaitl, maybe a couple of the lefties, but for the majority, it's a right-handed shot coming from a left-handed pass. So I'm not sure if anyone on the call has seen any of that information or done any research on it or has any comments to that regard, but just wondering if you came across any of that stuff, Dave, in your research.
I try to keep mine best of those 20 minutes, but I missed that completely. But it's a really great point. I believe the video I showed first was a lefty to a lefty. I would have to go back and see some of the videos I had used there as examples to see what that was. But I think that's a great point too. But ultimately, I think any shooter's got to be able to shoot any puck that comes his way. Who knows who's going to be paired with as a winger? Who knows how a broken play turns into an offensive chance. So my whole presentation was based on the numbers and chances of going in. So if that's the case, then great. But I think you got to be able to shoot from anywhere in any situation, but practicing them all certainly helps. So taking them from righties and lefties, but I'm all for increasing chances at scoring. Don't get me wrong there at all. Was Ari Curry a lefty or righty? I don't know. Gretzky was a lefty, obviously, but
Curry was another righty, and that's probably one of the most prolific duos as well, from a lefty passing to a righty in that situation. And I'm sure there's angles of the puck and spin of the puck that have different sort of components that add into it, but it seems to be whether it's science or just happens to be coincidence and how that works, that it is one of the more prolific components that we see on that one-timer across the Royal Road. Is it's a righty shooting from a lefty passer, whether it's a defenseman or another forward. But
well, if anyone's looking for a presentation topic, there's a gift for you. It's usually eat 20 minutes in that, no question.
Perfect. Anyone on the call have any questions for Dave? All right, Dave, perfect. Appreciate that. I know you don't, even though it's only 20 minutes, it takes longer than that to put the presentation together and find your clips and put everything in there. So a lot of good information there. And like you said, I think for a quick 20-minute presentation, you covered a lot of the points. And I think some of the science and information, as you will, some of the analytics component are important for skills coaches to look at when they're trying to explain this to players or give them some rationale as to why they might want to work on it. So that's always valuable as well. So.
Yeah, I thought that was important. One, I wanted to know what I was talking about myself, but talk about so much about players, now of this generation, or still it keeps being repeated, like wanting to know the why. You've got to prepare to give an answer while you're teaching stuff. So to me, you know, having stats and data certainly helps to then paint the picture of why should we do this? Well, this is going to, or the numbers say this is going to increase your chances of scoring and us winning games and you scoring goals. So this is exactly what we should practice and why. So I thought that was an important message to convey here as well.
Perfect. I agree. All right. Well, thanks. And Ryan, we'll have you up next. I'll just make you the co-host so you can share your screen.